Hey everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be all about huge travel and packing missteps. A lot of them I have made, also a lot of them you have made, and I know because I asked you about it in Instagram, and there was one really weird thing that a lot of you said you'd forgotten when you packed that I thought was just hysterical. And yeah, I'm really glad you're here. So y'all know I travel a lot, and I really pride myself on being prepared, on telling you guys all the best tips and tricks, on making sure that I'm super organized when I travel. And yet, a lot of the mistakes I'm going to talk about today, I have made myself, and I actually can't wait to share with you what y'all shared with me on Instagram about your mistakes, one in particular that's hilarious. And yeah, let's just dive right in. This first one might just be me, but my anecdotal evidence is that it's not just me, and that is not preparing for the temperature on the airplane. If you have not flown a lot, and particularly if you haven't flown like an international flight, airplanes are almost always freezing, and if they're not freezing, they're boiling. So you kind of have to be prepared for any scenario. The last time I flew to Rome, there was a sweet girl getting on the plane in a tank top and shorts. Now, let me be clear. She looked darling. This is not to say she shouldn't be wearing a tank top, but when she got on, I thought, oh, she's going to be so cold. This is a 9-hour flight. She wants to sleep, and you can't really sleep if your teeth are chattering. And lo and behold, a little later on, I went to go use the bathroom and I saw this precious girl, and she was curled up in the fetal position, like kind of pulling at the very thin, very inadequately sized airplane blanket. And I could tell she was in misery. So I have been her. I don't ever want to be her again. And there are a couple things I do to make sure that doesn't happen. The first is dress in layers, and also consider the kind of layers you're wearing, because if you're in economy, which is what I usually am, you are so tightly packed in there that if you have a sweater like this one, for example, that you have to pull on and off over your head, it's going to be almost impossible to do that without hitting your neighbor or feeling like super awkward, or what if they're asleep or whatever. So what I like to do is wear layers that zip up the front or button up the front. I usually wear like a zippered, like a thinner workout jacket, and then I have my denim jacket as another option over that. But when it comes to sleeping, nothing beats my binky, my travel binky, my layover blanket from Gravel. They are actually the sponsor of today's video. I have to tell you guys really quickly the story about how we got into partnership. You may have remembered a video that I did a few months back. I mentioned my layover blanket from Gravel. I showed it, I demonstrated it, I showed all the features about it that I love. I paid my own money for it, and I linked it. So it wasn't even an affiliate link. So a few weeks later, I get this email from Chris, who's the co-founder of Gravel, and he's like,
hey girl, hey, we had like one of our best sales days ever. Do you want to work together?
So I got to know him more. Y'all know I'm super picky about what brands I will work with. We got to talking. I love their ethos. I love their mission. Y'all, this brand checks all the boxes for me. Now, this is the product that started it all for me. This is how it comes, but this is how I carry mine, which is in its own little attached zipper pouch, so there's nothing extra to lose. But the reason I love this product so very much, let me show you. Let me put my notes down. By the way, these are your answers to your biggest packing mistakes on Instagram. So funny. This is what the blanket looks like. Now, you saw how small that little pouch was. This is, oh, I could do that trick they do with the dog where they drop the blanket and run away. I won't do that to you because maybe I'm magic. But this is how it looks, and it's huge, which is great because the blankets they give you on the airplane are teeny tiny. They are not nearly big enough to cover your body. Now, you can still use them. They are sanitized. Don't worry about that, but they're just not really adequate. This is big enough for my whole body, and this isn't even the extra large. This is the regular size. But what's great is there's a snap here. So, and hold on because the microwave. The microphone's going to make a funny noise probably. Okay, so you can snap that behind your head so that it doesn't fall off. But wait, there's more. On the bottom, they have geniusly put these little wells for your feet. So you can snuggle in on the airplane and have it cover your whole body and just kind of cuddle in your own little cocoon. I call this my Linus blanket. It is my comfort blanket. When this goes on my body, it like now triggers this Pavlovian response where I know it's time to sleep. So yes, it's a fabulous blanket. It's very, very thin, and it's also remarkably warm. I was the envy of my row, particularly on the way home from Rome. I don't know why, but the plane was sub-zero, it felt like. It probably wasn't actually, but it felt like it was. And I was the only person in my row of women that was not absolutely freezing. So I love this blanket. It is worth every penny. I have had mine now for at least 2 years. I've kind of started losing track of time. It might be 3 years. It goes with me on every single international flight. It is worth the space that it will take up in your luggage. And I'm telling you, you will never be cold on an airplane again. So go to graveltravel.com. They have also given you guys a 10% discount if you use code JenLaforge. These also make fantastic Christmas gifts, and you don't have to stop here. They also make an entire line of travel products, and their toiletry kit was the first thing that they became really known for. They have travel size bottles. They have all kinds of great gear. Check them out, send them some love. I'm just really pleased when I can work with a brand where I really can get to know the owners and believe in what they're doing. And y'all, it's a good product, great brand. Go check them out. Okay, so the second packing mistake, travel mistake we're going to talk about is one that I have never made. But believe it or not, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 of you on Instagram. Now keep in mind, I just put this story up asking for your packing mistakes yesterday. And in that time, 8 of you shared with me that you forgot this one very important thing. And before I present the problem, I'm going to tell you, I already have a fix for you. I already have an idea on how this will never happen to you. Believe it or not, the biggest packing mistake, and this was by far the number one answer, people forgetting their underwear. Their underwear. How? I don't really understand that, but evidently it is a thing because I got that answer over and over and over again. There was another one that came in second and one that came in third that I'm going to get into in a minute. But I have a great idea for you on how never to forget your underwear again. And this is actually a huge tip for never forgetting anything vital. If you're going on, say, a 5-night trip, pack as though you're going on a 6-night trip and pack a full 24 hours in advance. And that 24 hours before you actually leave, live out of your suitcase. Now you can do this literally, or you can just kind of play act this because you know what you need to get ready, but get yourself ready for the day with everything that you know you're going to need, and then kind of do a dress rehearsal of morning to night. This is how you're going to make sure you're not going to forget your underwear. You're not going to forget your pajamas. A couple of you said you'd forgotten pajamas. If you're going on a cruise, for example, you're probably not going to forget your bathing suit because you're going to think through, okay, if I was already on the cruise, what are the activities that I would do? I especially want you to do your full skincare, makeup, medication routine going only from your toiletry bag and your suitcase. A whole bunch of you also shared that you had forgotten vital medications, or a parent had forgotten vital medications. If you do this little dress rehearsal run through, so completely, let's say you're leaving on a Saturday, completely pack your bag Thursday night, and Friday, live out of your own suitcase. I know it seems a little dramatic, but I started doing this a couple years ago just to ensure that nothing super, super important was being left out. And y'all, it works like a dream. I have caught myself forgetting one particular medicine that I take. I thought I had refilled my pill case, but because I was living out of my toiletry kit, I went to take that pill, and guess what? I had not replenished it, and it was not in there. This has kept me from forgetting deodorant. This has kept me from forgetting some hair care products that I like to use. This will ensure that everything you need for the trip is in the bag. Is it overkill? Maybe, but it's worked really well for me. And I will tell you one thing that doesn't work well for me is scrambling and trying to pack at the last minute. So yeah, do a dress rehearsal, and yeah, don't forget your underwear, y'all. Don't forget your underwear. Now, the good news is you can usually buy underwear places, but that's not really what I want to spend my vacation time doing, is looking for underwear. Just not something I want to do. All right, this next one is actually kind of serious, and it's a mistake that I have made, and that is not buying travel insurance. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about travel insurance that will reimburse you for the cost of your trip, or even travel insurance that will reimburse you for the cost of your, lost luggage and things like that. I'm talking about travel insurance for medical emergencies. Now, I'm not going to recommend a particular brand here. We have used Alliance, we have used Travel Guard. I will let you do your own homework. Thankfully, I have never needed it, but we buy the travel policies that just cover medical. And that's because we are getting older. I just turned 55. My husband's almost 60. If we were in a foreign country and we should have a serious medical event, we want to make sure we can get the best care possible, that we can get care flighted if need be, that we can be medically evacuated if need be, no matter what the situation, that we have a policy that will cover it. And the good news is, in our experience, and again, this isn't sponsored or affiliated with any individual insurance company, but if you do the one that's just for medical, it's far less expensive than the insurance that covers the entire trip. Really easy to get. You can usually just get it a couple of days before, and I won't travel without it anymore. Anytime I'm out of the United States, I am always getting travel medical insurance. It's one of those mistakes that if you make it, you may never face a consequence, or you might forget it and face really serious consequences. I had a really interesting conversation with actually one of you. I was on a cruise, you came up and we started chatting, and your partner had I believe it was they needed an appendectomy in Rome. And because you didn't have travel insurance, you ended up in a not great hospital because there's different levels of care, and you want to make sure that you can get the best level of care possible. So that's kind of a big one. Like, that's even maybe worse than forgetting your underwear. So don't forget your underwear, buy travel insurance, don't freeze on the plane. Okay, this fourth one was the second highest in answers when I asked on Instagram, and that was, many of you have overpacked. And I would add my own spin on this, because y'all know I tend to not overpack. Like, I wear everything I take. What I did this last trip though was I packed my bags way too heavy. I hear from y'all all the time that are like, I live in Australia or I live in some other country, and they weigh our carry-on bags. Your bag looks really, really heavy. They don't weigh our carry-on bags in the US, but I will tell you right now, I have learned my lesson about making particularly the bag that I'm going to put in the overhead compartment way too heavy. A lot of you have asked me about compression packing cubes. This is why I don't use them, because even though they compress and they save space, they also make your bag way heavier. And my Away Bigger carry-on, which I love, if I stuff that to its max capacity, especially if I used compression packing cubes, that honker is heavy. It's very heavy, and I need to start being mindful about that. So what I'm gonna do for this next trip to Italy, which we leave for in just a few weeks, I'm so excited, is I'm gonna divide the heavy things up in between my personal item and my roller bag, just so that weight is distributed a little better. And what I don't wanna have to do is lug really heavy luggage all over the airport, all over Milan, onto the trains. I wanna pack as light as possible. So number one, don't overpack. Don't take things that you don't need and you're not going to wear. And I'm going to give a lot more tips on that as I prep for this 10-day trip to Italy. So make sure you're subscribed so that I can, share all that with you. But also just really be mindful of how heavy it is. One really practical tip on that is, once you have your bag all packed up, especially if you've packed in advance, so going back to my other tip, take it on a little trial run. Take it up and down the stairs at your own house. Take it to the mall. Get it on and off public transportation if you have that. Again, is that overkill? Maybe, but if you're gonna lug this stuff around for a really long trip, you wanna make sure it's comfortable. So you might surprise yourself and find that the personal item bag that you swore was gonna be comfortable, after about 15 minutes of lugging it around, you were over it, or it hurt your back in a weird way or whatever. So take it for a trial run, and then you won't run into those problems. But it does seem, especially if you're doing a multi-destination trip, those bags somehow seem to get heavier and heavier as the trip goes on. I personally would rather have a couple fewer outfits and have my bags be lighter. So I'm going to be a lot more mindful of not packing too heavy on my next trip. So this other one was mentioned. I think this was the third highest in ranking of packing mistakes that y'all have made. This also is a huge packing mistake that I have frequently made. I've talked about it before. too many shoes. You should be packing maximum 3 pairs of shoes. The only caveat for this is if you're traveling for like a wedding or something, obviously, but you need the shoes for walking, touring, exercising. For me, that's all the same pair. Couple brands I love Ultra Running. They just make really good walking shoes. I also, of course, love my Yumas. You guys know how much I love those. Those are great because they also look cute, a little bit more dressed up. I'll even wear those with a skirt for dinner. And then a pair of flats that will work with your nicer outfits, and potentially a pair of flip-flops or sandals depending on your destination. And that's it. I realize it's fun, and if you're someone who, has an entourage and someone else is carrying your luggage and you're never having to get off and on a train on your own or whatever, pack whatever you want. Pack whatever you want anyway. These are just my tips and the tips from the people that follow me on Instagram. But you just don't need that many shoes. No one's looking at your feet. And, it's one of those things where people are like, you're never going to see these people again. And I guarantee if you have a nice conversation with someone, they're going to remember the conversation and they're going to remember you. They're not going to remember your shoes. So 3 pairs of shoes maximum, 1 of which you're going to wear on the plane. And that's going to be your heaviest pair. So if you're traveling like in the dead of winter, maybe those are boots, but whatever your like comfortable, chunkiest shoes are, you're going to wear those on the plane. And then you're going to pack flats and maybe a pair of sandals, and that's it. Don't pack too many shoes. So that we all make mistakes when we travel. There isn't a person I know, no matter how often they travel, that hasn't gotten to their destination and realized that they've forgotten something. So don't beat yourself up if that happens. It's usually pretty easy to get what you need, but definitely check out graveltravel.com if you're in need of any travel gear, and especially if you are in need of a Linus type snuggly blanket to take on your next flight. This also makes a fantastic gift. I bought all of my sons these and they love them. So yeah, graveltravel.com. All the information is in the description box. Use code GEMMAFORGE for 10% off whatever you're doing today. I hope you're finding joy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.